In this product review, I will be comparing 3 professional artist grade of colour pencils: Caran Luminance, Prismacolor Premier and Faber Castell Polychromos. I will run a variety of product tests and produce a detailed drawing with each of the brands. There will also be a money saving tip at the end, so make sure you watch right until the end of the clip. Before we get started with the demonstration process of all of the 3 brands of pencils, I want to make clear a few things regarding sponsorship and affiliation. Neither am I affiliated to any of the companies in today's clip, nor am I sponsored, have I received any sponsorship for any of these products. I am completely impartial regarding all 3 brands. The first thing you noticed when you look at a pack of Prismacolors are the wide variety of bright, vibrant colours. This is why a lot of people choose Prismacolors. I have the 132 set, and this is a good choice for you if you don't have additional storage. The 150 set comes in a cardboard box, and one of the reasons why I chose the 132 is it comes with a tin. However, the little trays that they come in are quite bendy and the pencils can come out quite easily. I'm not going to show you that because I don't want to damage my pencils, so I got additional storage for my pencils. There are a few things to notice. Personally, I don't find them that worrying, but I think that they should be mentioned, and these are things that became apparent once the factory moved to Mexico in 2010. The first thing is that the leads do tend to go off center. This is a production fault, and if you notice, the lead on the top is not filled entirely. Now, this is sometimes just an aesthetic issue. However, if you have a look at this lead on the pencil afterwards, the mulberry pencil, you can see that once that pencil has been sharpened, some of that internal lid is missing. Now obviously I could return these pencils to Amazon, but I only noticed this a few months after I purchased them, so I didn't bother to return it. I would suggest that when you order your pencils that you inspect them really carefully for all of these flaws, because if they are something that bother you, I would suggest that you return them straight away. So what's the problem with the lead being off centre? If you have a look at this lead here, the majority of the wood is at the top on one side, and then you have a large bit of lead at the other side. It's not an issue to look at. If you're shading, what will happen is very quickly on one side you'll get down to the wood. Number 1, it will scratch up your work, and number 2, you're going to have to sharpen it, and you're going to lose some lead on the other side. It means that this issue does need to be resolved at the factory because it's causing issue for some pencil artists. Another quality control issue, but this is me just comparing this brand to the other brands, which is what we're here for, right? Is the labelling. Now the majority of the labelling in this set wasn't too bad, but some of them it was quite rough and the lettering wasn't clear, so just check through, especially when you're colouring. You want all of the lettering to be clear when you are working on your pencil work. And finally, split pencils. If you are ordering a set of pencils, the first thing I would do is get every single pencil out, check the whole barrel of the pencil and make sure that there aren't any splits. I was really lucky with this set. The worst split was this one that I'm showing you here. I have seen some real horror stories on Facebook pages of Prismacolors where the split goes pretty much all the way through to the lead. So the first thing that I would suggest you do is that you check your Prismacolors when they arrive. I hope I haven't put you off getting Prismacolors, because they're a fantastic pencil to use, and I will show you in the pencil test later how they blend together. I just want to make you aware of these flaws that can happen. As I said, this set that I've got, I think I've been very lucky with, but I'd like you to make your own decision on these issues. So now we come on to the only oil-based pencil in the pencil comparison. That's Faber Castell Polychromos. And oil-based pencils have a really hard core, which means they're very good for adding fine details. So the reason why I like this pencil is because I like to use it for adding fine details to my work, say for example with eyelashes and getting to really fine points. I also like their labelling. It's really easy to find the colours that I need, and also I like the way they package. They have a really nice end to them so that pencils are sealed. I don't have to worry about dropping the pencil, and that is good for me. I know that they are really well packaged. I have never bought Faber Castell as a set. I've only ever bought them open stock, so I can't vouch for what it's like to buy them as a set. However, when you buy them, they come as a tin, but you could choose to buy them open stock as I have, but I can totally recommend them as a pencil for adding detail. So lastly, for the Luminance, this is the pencil that claims to be the most premium of the three brands. The main reason for this is because of the light fast qualities, which I will talk about later. I don't have this in the original packaging because I've bought these open stock, but when they come in the packaging, they do come in foam casing, which protects the pencils. They're very nice to hold, they're quite thick in their wooden casing, and they have the colour at the end of the pencil along with the name and the colour number. However, this can make it quite difficult to read sometimes, so just bear that in mind. Other than that, they're really nice to hold and they are a good quality pencil. I will talk more about the qualities of the pencil later in the testing, so let's get on to the testing of all three pencils now. So on this first test, I'm doing some fairly loose shading to add some layers to add a 3D effect on a sphere. And the first one is Faber Castell Polychromos, then I'm doing some layering with the Prismacolor, and the last one will be the Caran Luminance. I'm then going to see how effective it is to put a lighter colour on top, and with all of them I will be adding white. This is to show how effective adding that lighter colour is on top with burnishing. You will see by adding the Faber Castell white that unfortunately it doesn't blend it that well. With the Prismacolor, it has blended it really well, as it has with the Luminance. So that is our first test. The second test is blending a variety of colours, and I will be using warm colours going from yellow through to red. So the first strip that I did was Faber Castell Polychromos. It took quite a while to blend all the colours and to layer them all up. Ultimately, I would like to have used a pencil blender to get a really smooth effect because it wasn't as smooth as I would like. The second one that I did was Prismacolor. This blended really well and all of the colours burnished perfectly and blended as they were. It was a wax-based pencil. The Luminance blended really well, as you can see, because it's a wax-based pencil. It blended really well between the transitions. However, the downside of Prismacolor and Luminance is that you may, and I stress may, get wax bloom. It doesn't always happen. I don't always notice wax bloom, and the one way to remedy this is that if you are concerned that you may have wax bloom, just spray your work with fixative the minute that you've finished it. But it's not something that I always see in my work, and it's not something that I'm really concerned about. The next test I'm going to do is the eraser test. I'm going to test the eraser on the darkest part of each of these swatches, and the reason I'm going to do this is just to see how effective this plastic eraser would be on these colours. To be honest with you, it's effective on pretty much all of the swatches, but if any of the colours has the edge, it's the Polychromos, and that is because it's oil based. With a wax-based pencil, it starts to get into the fabric of the paper. However, because I'm working on Bristol smooth paper, that's probably why the rubber is effective, because it hasn't properly worked its way into the surface of the paper. So now we're going to talk about the different properties of all of the sets. The first thing to mention is the price point. With the Polychromos, they are coming in at the present at £178.51 for the 120 set on Amazon. That means they're coming in at £1.49 per pencil. They obviously come in at different size sets, so it's worth shopping around for this brand of pencil in the different size boxes. So why is the light fastness of a product important? It is really important, especially if you are selling your work onto a client, and it doesn't just apply to pencils, it applies to watercolours, it applies to acrylics, any of the medias if you are selling them on, because if your client is buying a piece of artwork from you, they want to know that it's going to last. So the reason why it's important is that artwork will fade over time no matter what, whether it's 2 years, whether it's 10 years. So it's really important to know that the art materials that have been used are going to last for a particular period of time. It doesn't just rely on the materials used, the actual brand, but also the colours, the pigments, because you could, for example, be using Polychromos, but if you are using a particular colour, that pigment could react with the sunlight and could fade a lot quicker than another colour. So it's really important that you get familiar with the colours you are using. The sunlight contains UV rays which will react with particular pigments and they will fade quicker than others. Unfortunately, it tends to be those more vibrant colours that react more to the UV rays, so it's really important that you get familiar with the colours that are the less light fast colours, and bear in mind that these light fast ratings are based on museum conditions not being in direct sunlight, so please become familiar with how long it takes with these light fast ratings. Some of the light fast ratings, especially with the Luminance, they say 100 years, but that is 100 years in museum conditions, so just become familiar with those light fast ratings. So out of the 120 set of the Polychromos, 2 pence will have the lowest ratings, 16 have the medium light fast rating, and 102 out of the 120 set have the highest light fast rating, so that's pretty good going. You can say that 102 of those pencils have a high light fast rating. So for my final impressions of the pencil, it is a pencil that I use regularly, but it's a pencil for adding fine details. You can add layers, but it is quite time consuming when you're adding layers, and it's not really a good pencil for blending. It can blend, but you need to add additional materials, say for example a blending pencil or solvent. Next we have Prismacolor, and this pencil comes in at the cheapest. For the 150 set in the UK in July 2021 it comes in at $139.99, and in the US it's $127. So that means that per pencil that is 93 pence. However, if you factor in all of the quality control issues that I mentioned earlier, you may not be saving that much money, so you have to bear that in mind when you are buying this pencil. We discussed earlier the importance of light fastness if you are going to sell your work professionally. If you are hoping to sell your work as a professional artist, as I said earlier, you need to become familiar with which pencils are the ones that you would be able to use in your work if you wanted to sell it on. Unfortunately, with Prismacolor, the pencils that are light fast tend to be the ones that are the greys. The ones that aren't light fast are those lovely, luscious, vibrant colours. So become familiar with those colours that are the light fast ones. Use those in your work if you are selling them professionally. If you are drawing for fun, say for example in colouring books, fantastic, Prismacolor is a good choice, but for a professional artist they're not a good choice for the simple reason that you cannot guarantee their light fastness, and if you're selling your work to someone to hang on their walls, it's not really a good thing to do if the work's going to be fading in a year or so's time. Final thoughts. Light fastness aside and the quality issues aside, I am a real fan of Prismacolor. I love to use them. They're really fun. They have really great colours. They blend amazingly. It's like using butter to draw with. So I'm a real fan of Prismacolor, but the main issue for me is if you are selling your work professionally, I don't think you would be able to use them unless you know you've gone through, you've checked the colours and you check that they are the light fast colours. So now we come to Caran Luminance, which claims to be the best of all of the professional pencils. It's certainly amongst the most expensive at £2.59 per pencil in the UK and $2.72 in the US in July 2021. The main reason for this claim of them being the best of all of the professional pencils is because of their light fast qualities. all of the pencils have a light fast rating, a high light fast rating. They have a light fast rating of 1 or 2. Out of the 76, 15 have a light fast rating of 2. The rest of them have a light fast rating of 1, which is the highest light fast rating for ASTM. So that means that all of the pencils are rated as light fast, which is great for professional pencil artists if they want to sell their work on. If you can say you have created your work using Caran-Luminance, that means that you are giving a seal of approval for your work that it will not fade for a considerable amount of time. And that means that you can use all of the colours with great ease, knowing that the work won't fade for a considerable amount of time. So what are my impressions of these pencils? Again, like the Prismacolor, I love these pencils. They're like butter, they blend really well. And what I like are the really subtle colours that you get with these pencils, especially for doing portraits and animals. They come with some really subtle colours, lots of different greys, lots of different skin tones, and especially for portraits, they're a dream. So I do really like Luminance. I wouldn't like to say I have a favourite, but they are one of my go-to brands. I do like this pencil. One thing I would say is that if you are a hobbyist, you may want to consider using Prismacolor first, but I do have an idea of how you could start using Luminance. So watch till the end for my money saving tip, and I will give you an idea of how you could try using all three until you've made up your mind. So one downside of this pencil is obviously because it has those fantastic blending qualities, because it's a soft pencil. The downside is that when you come to adding fine details and getting into a sharp corner, it is failing, and you do need a hard pencil like the Polychromos to add those fine details. So now it's up to you to make a decision as to which pencil suits your needs best. Do you need a pencil that blends well? Do you need a pencil that has detail? Do you need a pencil that has good light fast qualities? That decision is up to you. But if you're struggling to make a decision, I have an idea where you may be able to use all three pencil brands. And this is where my money saving tip comes into play. If you remember at the beginning, I mentioned when I bought the Prismacolor Premier set, and I was concerned about the packaging and the box and the trays, and how I thought that the trays were flimsy and it was possible that the pencils would fall out. Because of this, I bought myself a pencil case that holds 300 pencils. So because of that, I've since bought myself open stock of the Polychromos and the Luminance, and I have all the colours that I need so far. I've got pretty much the whole sets now, because over time, all of the work that I've done, I have all of the colours that I need. And these pencil cases are great because you can keep your colour charts in them, and as I've said, they hold 300 pencils. So my suggestion to you is that you could get a few of each of the brands. You could get tins if you want to, but you could over time build up the colours that you want and buy them as you need them for each project. But you could also keep them in this fantastic pencil case to make sure that your pencils are kept safe, keep your colour charts in one place. If you would like to find out more information about this pencil case, then all of the information is in the description below. If If you got value from today's clip, then please make sure you subscribe to be notified of future content. Also, if you would like to improve your colour pencil skills, then click on the colour pencil playlist below.